On my wedding day, he was supposed to walk me down the aisle. He looks at me and tells me, so I tell him, Dad, it is time we need to walk into church. And then he says, no, I'm not your father. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. One, this is supposed to be the happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
This is when you're telling me this. How can you tell me this now? I remember the last time my family members called me and told me, you've shown him your photo. He doesn't seem to know you. You need to come. That time Dad was in Mombasa. You need to come to Mombasa right now. So I took a flight and went to Mombasa. When I got there, he looks at me, habari yako, karibu. Nimefurahi sana kukuona, habari ya wazazi wako. And I'm thinking, And I'm thinking, this thing is actually real. Anikumbuki, but it's really sad to see somebody deteriorate to that level. Yeah. I pray every day that we shall get a cure for this disease, because it's painful to see someone, when you hear their stories, how they did stuff, how they were so involved in their community, in their church, in their, hata msikitini, ama popote walikuwa, hata muhindi, they were so vibrant. Then all of a sudden, they've become almost a shell of themselves. For me, that is hard.
Welcome again to another exciting episode. My name is Yasmin Aureliangina. Imagine waking up one day and realize your family member or someone close to you cannot remember you or anything about you. My guest today shares a story how her father woke up one day and told her, "You're not my daughter." My guest is Alzheimer's soldier, very passionate about Alzheimer's disease. She's going to be sharing with us a story. Karibu sana Elizabeth. Please introduce yourself to my people. Yeah.
Asante sana. My name is Elizabeth Mutunga. I'm the CEO and founder of the Alzheimer's and Dementia Organization Kenya, an organization that helps caregivers understand what dementia is, what to do with their loved ones, and how, above all, care for themselves. When I say care for themselves, a lot of caregivers usually end up neglecting themselves, not because they want to, but because of the challenges of this journey of dementia. So my job is usually to just encourage them, let them realize they are not alone, and also putting them in touch with other caregivers who can hold their hands and help them walk in this journey.
So is it something out of you witnessed or is it something out of experience?
So it is out of experience. When I was about 17 years in the 90s, you can almost calculate how old I am. My dad, one of the things that shocked us was my dad was a policeman and a senior policeman. And he woke up and he started doing things in a very different way. When I say different is, he would take the car, sell it in parts. So he would sell the tires of the vehicle alone, the rest of the vehicle alone, and they're thinking, that is not selling the car. And then he moved us from a 4-bedroom maisonette house to a mabati house round the corner. And he started saying, oh, Jesus is coming, we don't need all these things. And my dad used to be, the smart dressed people. He took care of himself and everything. All of a sudden, he's wearing his kaunda suits. He loved kaunda suits. And then he wears pajamas on top. So we started realizing there's a problem. At that point, my sister was joining, I just finished Form 4. My sister was joining Form 1. And my father tells my sister that you can't go to high school because you need to sit at home, wait for your husband to come for you.
What?
We are like, hey, what happened to Dad? Dad is one of those people, even school fees you would pay for a whole year for you. So it was quite confusing when you see that kind of behavior from him. And as we continued, because we still didn't know what we were dealing with, on my wedding day, he was supposed to walk me down the aisle. He looks at me and tells me, so I tell him, Dad, it is time we need to walk into church. And then he says, no, I'm not your father. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. One, this is supposed to be the happiest day of my life.
Yeah.
This is when you're telling me this. How can you tell me this now? But I'm grateful. I don't know how I did it, but somehow God gave me wisdom. And
wait,
so, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
What was your reaction?
At that
I can
point,
imagine someone telling you, you're not my daughter. And it's
I was very
important day.
I know, I was very shocked. But I don't want to cry at this point because I am thinking, wait, I need to be very happy for this day. So I think At that point, I shelved my feelings because I needed him. We were late. We needed to walk down the aisle. And so I just convinced him. I told him, let's walk in. You're the only older person here at the moment. When my father comes, he'll take over. So I think I thought on my feet at that particular point, but it was not easy. And I don't think I actually thought about it at that point. But every time I went to see him, he would keep saying the same thing. And now I think that is now when I started reacting. You know, when something is said once, you think it's a mistake, it's a pita. Then later you come and realize he said it twice, thrice. I remember the last time my family members called me and told me, we've shown him your photo. He doesn't seem to know you. You need to come. That time Dad was in Mombasa. You need to come to Mombasa right now. So I took a flight and went to Mombasa because I had a class during the day, so I had to go in the evening. When I got there, he looks at me, habari yako, karibu. Nimefurahi sana kukuona, habari ya wazazi wako. And I'm thinking, And I'm thinking, this thing is actually real. Anikumbuki. And then I'm thinking, no, wait. Maybe it's just a mistake. So I said, wazazi wangu ni wako sawa. And he says, hey, wakoaje, bado wako pande gani? So I looked at him and I was like, for real, he does not realize who I am. So I said, Dad, you're one of my parents. You're my dad. He says, unashinda wewe msichana. Unajua unashinda ukiniambia mimi ni babako na nimekwambia, I think mara nyingi sana wacha kuniita babako. And I'm thinking, he has said it again.
Kama amekasirika.
He was angry. At that point, I think that is the day I reacted. That is the day I really cried. I think the other day, I think that the first time when he said it, it was too raw. There was too many emotions. I couldn't deal. But on that day, I actually went behind the house and I really cried. Then I decided I'm not even going to answer. So after a few minutes again, I came back. Amesha sao ni mimi tena. Oh,
you're in the same room.
Yeah, same. He was in the sitting room with. So I walked back in. Msichana, habari yako, ulikuja lini? Unaitwa nani? So I told him my name. Hey, na habari wazazi wako? And I'm thinking, here we go again. And then he says, hey. So I remind him again, wewe ni baba yangu. He says, msichana. So I decided from that day, I will never tell him you're my dad again. All I'll be telling him is, wazazi wangu wamekusalimia. And that now became the conversation I had with my dad until he rested.
And about your mom?
My mom was there, but my mom was not in Mombasa at that time. My mom had taken a break because she almost went through depression after taking care of my dad. With this disease, you see your loved one deteriorating, they get worse. And the early stages, they are very violent, not because they want, but it's because of the disease. So I think mom had bottled in a lot of emotions.
Elizabeth, would you kindly explain to some of us, to our viewers who don't know what is Alzheimer's and the connection between Alzheimer's and dementia?
All right. So dementia is an umbrella term that explains changes in personality, changes in behavior, changes in how people think and behave. So Alzheimer's is just one type of dementia. So there are many types of dementia. So there's Alzheimer's, there's Lewy body, there's vascular dementia, there's dementia because of HIV-related conditions, dementia because of alcohol. So there are many types of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease is just one type of dementia. So with Alzheimer's, it's a progressive degenerative condition, which means once it starts, it does not stop. So the person keeps deteriorating. So if they forget how to walk, they will never walk again. If they forget how to talk, they'll never talk again. And it's sad, but they actually forget how to breathe. And that is when they die.
What?
Yes, that is how they die. So it's a very frustrating disease because in layman's language, the brain is dying. So once one part of the brain dies, that's lost completely. So the language is affected, memory is affected, your behavior, your motivation, all these things are affected one by one. And finally, they forget how to breathe, and that's when they rest.
And what's the cause of it? Is it old age? What exactly?
Actually, there is no known cause for dementia, but there are People say that sometimes it's because of, one, it's not an old age related condition.
not,
No.
yeah.
And that is one thing I want to make it very clear. It is not an old man's disease. No. We have people in their early 40s who are getting dementia, and now it's being attributed maybe to the lifestyle that we are living, how we what we eat. Do we exercise? Do we take care of ourselves? Because a lot of us now, we just sit. We have remotes. We don't really walk. We don't read. We use our phones. We don't have social interactions with other people. So the causes are not really known, but they are things like either blood pressure, if you have blood pressure, if you have diabetes, if you have cholesterol issues, anything that affects your heart will affect your mind. So if you have a heart disease, all these things could affect how you will, if you will get dementia or not. Now, it doesn't mean that everybody who has diabetes, then you will get dementia. No. Stress is also a great contributor to dementia. So a lot of people will tell us that my loved one either lost a job, like in my dad's case, my dad lost a job as a policeman because he went into a diabetic coma. He also had diabetes. Yes, thank you. He had diabetes, so he went into a diabetic coma, and then he also lost a daughter. And one of our sisters passed on. She had cancer. So that also really made my dad deteriorate further. Other family members will tell you that death, loss of money, any loss in their life could have been a contributor. But until now, we really don't know exactly what is the cause of dementia. We only have these things we think are related that cause dementia. So still studies are going on, and we pray, and it's 100 years later, because the first person who saw it was called Alzeimer's, Dr. Alois Alzheimer's. And it was 100 years ago when he discovered this disease, and we have not still found the cure. So those are some of the things that you would see. And then the symptoms that you would see is maybe changes in personality. They are forgetting. They do not remember the time and date. My dad would wake up on a Tuesday. His mind has told him it's a Sunday. He wants to go to church. And then if they come in, for example, if they're outside, they will not remember how to put in their hand and open the gate. So usually you will hear most people who have dementia or Alzheimer's disease will keep wandering. They keep walking and walking because he will not know how to open the latch and get back into the house. So many times my dad would go for a walk, stand outside, he cannot remember how to open the latch, then he starts wandering. So many times he got lost because we are looking for him and we can't find him because his mind does not remind him to open the latch. He'll not remember you're his child or the wife. So those are some of the symptoms that you'll notice repeating themselves. So my dad, like I told you, he would repeat the statement so many times. So those are some of the symptoms that you would see with your loved one. And then keep saying they are going home. And the home they're talking about is not where they are staying. It is the home they grew up, because their brain, the short-term memory is all wiped out. They're using their long-term memory. Ni kule alizaliwa. So yes, so ataanza kuongea juu ya manyanya yake. Mama yake, hati my mom is calling me, na ni mtu wa 80 years, 50 years, na unashanga hata mama yake hayuko, lakini anakuambia mama yangu yuko pale ananiita. Na mbona akumbuke hizo nini za vitu za zamani na hizi za recent. Ndio ninakwambia the short term memory imewipiwa out completely. Ni kama when you have something on a board, it's wiped out. Hauwezi kumbuka. So the only memory they have niyo ya kitambo, because brain inakufa polepole, na sasa wamerudi between the end of teenagehood, early 20s. Na ndio sababu babangu alikuwa anaamka ananiambia sikukumbuki, wewe si mtoto wangu, sababu kwa akili yake siko kwa akili yake at that particular point. Anaamka nafukuza mamangu sababu mama hakumbuki alioa na ana familia. So the short-term memory is all wiped out, and that is what is causing dementia.
Now the question comes here.
Yes.
How do you handle someone with dementia? Because they keep on repeating themselves. They forget everything about you. Like for your case, your dad forgot about you. How do you handle him to make sure that you don't offend him and you don't make him feel sad or feel bad?
So it takes a lot of work from the person. We always say the one who is normal, you're the one who does a lot of work. Because this person on the other end does not understand what's going on. And as much as it is very difficult for you, who is the caregiver taking care of them, please always remember, even for them who are going through dementia, it is harder for them, because who would want to wake up, ukumbuki kuoga, ukumbuki kubrush meno, ukumbuki kukula, unaeka hapo chakula na ukumbuki. I think it's very hard to live that kind of life. So for us as a caregivers, it's a daily learning that hajifanyi, hakui mgumu, si kukataa kufanya kile unamwambia. You have to remind yourself, I have to be kind to this person. So you have to work on you. So me, many times I would have to walk out and scream and then I come back. Because like there's once because dad did not have a job, like I said, I had to take, I didn't mention that. When he told my sister, you don't have to go to school, you can't go to school, I had to go and look for work. So I took my siblings to school, made sure that they went to school, because now my dad had said she's not going to school. So for me, I thought I was being very helpful by going to do shopping and to do things for the house. Nimepata kajob kadogo nina pesa sasa naweza saidia familia. Me, for my dad, it was like I was offending him. So on this particular day, I come home, I've done shopping and everything. Nikamkuta ameningojea hapo kwa sitting room anaongea na the house help. So akamwambia, msichana amejifanya sasa take over nyumba yangu, nitamfundisha, mimi ndio mwenye nyumba. So me, I'm not even thinking ni mimi, because I'm thinking mimi ninafanya the right thing. So the next thing, my dad comes and hits me higher, and then I'm looking at him and I'm saying, what's going on? Then the next thing, he hit me until he broke my hand.
What?
And then he says, who told you you could usurp authority over me? Ini nyumba yangu.
Did you walk away?
At that point, I think I was shocked. So I stood and I was really beaten. I was really, really beaten. But now when I look back and when I'm teaching people how to care for their loved ones, when I give this story, I always tell people, be wise. Don't show that you've taken over the running of the house. Make them look that they are part of running of the house. So what would I have done differently if I had known what I was dealing with? I would have taken a few thousands or some money and maybe given to him and then ask him, what do you want us to do? Then he would feel I am not taking over the running of his house. So he was not being mean, but by that time I didn't understand that bit. I was angry. I remember going for therapy and I kept saying, my dad is the worst person. You know, I couldn't relate. Why are you so mean? I'm trying to help. But now when I look back, he didn't know any other way. He didn't know what to do. So it's the emotions that came that made him do what he did. So those are some of the things I teach caregivers now. And many times, many have been hit by their loved ones. So I tell them, hey, imagine he's not being mean. It's the disease. So what you need to learn is how to make them feel they are not stupid anymore, because they feel like I'm not needed. So they become very violent to make you realize their presence around them. So it's a lot of learning. So caregivers, it's a constant learning. And then you're also seeing the person deteriorating. I remember going to a family one time and I was talking to them and I told them, you know, this disease, unfortunately, at the moment, there is no cure. And the family told me, I think, Mwalimu, you're wrong. And I was like, okay, please enlighten me. What do you mean I'm wrong? And he said, I think the only thing you can give these people is love. Because love will change a lot of things. And when I look back, he was right. Because once you show them, you love them, you protect them. My dad would, like I said initially, he would go to the bank, withdraw money, give to people.
Just like that.
Just like that. Then other times he would hide his money and hide it so safely he cannot remember where he put it. Anatuamsha saa 10 ya usiku. Amkeni niwaambie, mimi siwezi lea hawezi. Mmeniibia. Hii pesa atahuwa tuioni. Tumekuibia wapi? Kumbe ameficha, akumbuki kule iko akasahau. And so a lot of times you get very angry, but if one of another girl was telling us how she handles her mother when she's called a thief, is she tells her mom, wacha nenda nikatafute huyo mwizi, nitakwambia nikimpata. So she goes behind, ana clap, anaonekana, alafu atapiga nduru yeye mwenyewe, alafu asema nilimpata, nimemchapa, selisikia clap akafikiria amechapwa, na ni mimi ulisikia kipiga nduru? Nimemfundisha lesson, hata wahi kuibia tena. And from then on, the mother stopped saying she's the thief. should be like, so utaenda kunitafutia mwizi, you know. So you have to use ingenious ways to make them feel accepted, to make them feel loved, to make them feel appreciated.
When did you notice that your dad had dementia?
So I noticed when I was clearing Form 4, which was in 92. But before that, Dad used to do, like I said, crazy things that hatuko tunaelewa what's happening, because like I said, Dad was a policeman, senior policeman, mtu anajielewa, but anaanza kufanya vituko. Badala achukue matatu, anatembea. Akiingia matatu, akiambiwa sasa fare ni 50 bob, anaanza vita. Anasema hapana, mnataka kuniibia. Fare ni 20. Mara ngapi amepelekwa police station? Na polisi anamuelewa? Haelewi ako na ugonjwa gani. So those are the small things that we kept seeing. So at some point even I told my mom, hasikuwa akienda peke yake, ama anaenda town, alikuwa amezoea kwenda peke yake, lakini sasa anafika point anapotea, hakumbuki ni wapi. The last time hivyo alipotea, alienda police station, akamwambia nimepotea, nataka munisaidie. Wakamuuliza, mzee unaitwa nani? Hakumbuki jina. So akamwambia sikumbuki. Polisi akamwangalia akamuuliza, ukumbuki? Mzee wachanga ujinga, umekuja hapa kufanya nini? Imagine toka na uende kule unaenda. Sababu we are being told a story by another policeman. So my dad, because it was at night, alala chini ya magari. Hiyo ilikuwa Mombasa. Ndio the next day tulimkuta akitembea towards Nairobi. Na alikuwa ametoka Nyali. Tulikutana naye on his way to Nairobi akitembea, sababu sasa one hajui jina, hajui. It's
unasahau hadi jina
completely. It's a very frustrating disease.
Is there a test that one can conduct at least kuwa sure ni ugonjwa ni hiyo?
Yes. So what you do, usually we advise families to go and see a neurologist. And once they see a neurologist, the test will be run. Now for us, it took us 15 years to understand what we were dealing with. And that is why I think I help other family members not to go through such a long journey without knowing what it is. So it took us 15 years. But even for us, when we first understood what it is, we went to see a doctor. Hizo siku zingine tukienda, we used to talk about blood pressure, tunaongea juu ya diabetes, lakini atuongea anasahau, anatuchapa, we never used to talk about that. But now the doctor who we saw then told us, it looks like dementia, Alzheimer's type. Go and read. But so I said, but is there a cure? He says, no, there is no cure. Lakini umeambiwa go and read. Hata upatiwe information. So it was a lot of researching on my side to understand what it is. And that is actually what pushed me to do now a master's in dementia. Ndio nielewe dementia vizuri. But now you go and see a neurologist. The neurologist will carry out blood tests, they'll do scans, they will ask you questions where they can be able to understand what you're going through. So there's also a question about the stages. How long does it last? So unfortunately, everybody is very different. But every time they're at a certain stage. So with Alzheimer's, they say there are 7 stages of Alzheimer's, but they are categorized into early, middle, and late. So early is when kuna vituko. Early is hard. And early can even take over 5 years. Sometimes.
14 years.
5 years to start with. It can be 5, depending on if the person is still, you see, the thing is with dementia and Alzheimer's disease especially, kama anaishi Jambo Estate, hawezi muhamisha umpeleke Rongai.
So na if you don't have resources, for example,
we request families, kaa kwa ushago, wacha tu akae ushago, nyinyi endeni ushago mkamtembele. Sababu mkimuhamisha, one, ana deteriorate haraka sana. So some families, because they don't know what to do, leo ataishi kwangu, kesho yuko kwako, kesho yuko kwa ndugu yako, like that. But hivyo akikuja kwanza, vitu zingine kama especially ukiwa na dementia, kitu ambayo huwa unotice ni kwamba the air around you smells different. So hewa ya Lang'ata si hewa ya Rongai, ama ya Ushago, Murang'a tuseme. So lakini sasa sisi tuko normal, huwa hatutumii hiyo sense yetu ya kunotice that. So already ako disoriented. Mali choo yangu iko kwa nyumba yangu Lang'ata tuseme, for example, si mahali nyumba yake choo yako iko Rongai tuseme. Ama choo ya mzee mahali pengine hata mzee huwa anaenda choo nje Ushago. Sasa umemleta kwa nyumba Yeah, iko na choo iko ndani, atashinda akijiendea choo kwa nyumba. Na sio kwamba anataka, lakini yeye hakumbuki kuna choo ya kwenda kutumia. So the best thing, leave them in the environment they are used to if you can. I know there are some circumstances like you've asked, if you're not well off, utafanya nini? But as a family, you have to make a call. But me, what I would advise is don't move them from an environment they are used to. So it can take 5 years, it can take more. So kama wako kwa constant, hawajahamishwa, you're kind to them even when they are mean. When things are not going well, you're trying to support them and all that. With that love and support, the stage can take a bit longer, but the dip will still happen. So sometimes it could be 5 years. Like my dad lived with the disease for 17 years.
So you for all those 14 years before you realize
tulikuwa tumepitia. So of course watu wengi walikuwa nafikiria ni kamotea manini, lakini alafu anakumbuka yeye ni mtu wa kanisa. So story kama ya Job kwa Bible, story Job alikuwa marafiki wake walikuja kumtembelea, alafu akasema wewe ni secret sinner, unafanyanga vitu huko, Mungu ndio anakupanish saizi. So watu wengi walikuwa wanafikiri for sure tunapanishwa, kwa sababu tunaweza je hama kwa nyumba ya 4 bedroom tua mabati house kama ya 5 rooms, kama si kamote ama hamufanyi amujali, Mungu anawapanish sababu ya ile kazi mmekuwa mkifanya ya kisiri. So a lot of people judge you as families. I can tell you, I can count the number of times people came to visit us. People would never visit our home.
Na maybe tukiendelea, for your dad, vile alikuwa polisi, najua polisi wakinakuja na a lot of challenges. Ilikuwa pia imechangia pia situation yake kukua worse.
I think now because nimwambia ninasomea mambo ya dementia ndio nielewe zaidi dementia. I've come to realize zile profession zinakuanga na, they are difficult professions, and when I say difficult is you have to be strong. Like my dad, I think during the coup in 1982, babangu alinusuru kifo mara nyingi sana. When I think about it now, because of the stories he gave us. And my dad never showed emotions. I mean, ni polisi. He takes everything. So I think I've noticed the people, most families that will reach out are either families wako na mtu alikuwa kwa either kwa army, kwa polisi, nurses, au ni wengine.
Is it a lifestyle thing?
I don't even think it's a lifestyle. I think the career that you take, and I think that is where I'm now starting to tell people, go for therapy if you can. And I'm not saying that because I'm a psychologist. And even the other thing I was talking to somebody yesterday who's in media. Even you guys cover very scary stories that are very emotional. What do you deal? How do you deal? Even those pent up emotions of hard things that we have gone through that we don't deal with, it's time to actually deal with them. So for me, I think, and this is me, if somebody has been through a very difficult career or profession, you need to go get help to deal with whatever things that you're not. There are things you can't speak out to anybody. Look for a place where you can go and vent, and look for ways to take care of ourselves. Because if we don't, unfortunately, I'm not saying if you don't, you'll get dementia.
So,
but it is a muscle you're not using.
Allow me to take you back.
Yes.
Now, after you have your dad has been diagnosed with dementia, what next? Yeah.
So unfortunately for dad, it was too late. Because I told you we got it at 15 years and he died by 17. So the next 2 years, he was already on oxygen masks, tanks, because he couldn't breathe on his own. And then his muscles had withered. He had already had like 3 strokes. And then he just used to sit on a wheelchair and do nothing. So for us, and that is why dementia is a very sad disease, because, or rather Alzheimer's is a sad disease, because Alzheimer's is the disease, because your loved one is just dying in front of your eyes, and there's nothing you can do. So you start mourning their death before they actually die, thinking you're okay, and then when they die, everything comes back.
Where?
So it's hard because we say it's like they have died before, because of course you're seeing them deteriorating. So for Dad, I remember the week before he died, we did a service for him. And we did, because like I said, Dad was Kamba. So we did a song in Kikamba, a song he knew and loved. My father sat down. His eyes glowed, and he started, of course he couldn't speak, but he started moving his hand, and he looked like he had come back. And the song, first stanza, second stanza, that song I think has either 3 or 4 stanzas. When we were getting towards the end of the stanzas, my father just slumped back to his wheelchair and kept quiet. And I kept thinking, he's back, he has come back. What has happened again? So I'm like, Baba, move, Amka, song. Then he went back to that state again. So it was very sad. I mean, within a week, he rested.
Yes.
But for me, I was like, I'm glad he has rested. Of course, I loved my dad, but he was so sad. Alisumbuka sana.
I know.
And I thank God, at least hakuwaikuwa na vidonda za unajua bed sores. Because those are the things also that really take most of them. Because those bed sores huwa zinaenda zinakula mpaka bone. So sasa kama haitibiwi inakuwa ni shida.
Mtoto anaumia.
Anaenda akiumia, ana uchungu, hawezi zungumza, anajaribu kukula chakula inapita vibaya, inaenda kwa lungs, anapata pneumonia.
Lakini wote stress pia.
Yani alafu hospitali bill ndio hiyo.
Okay.
Mara sasa ataacha sasa kufidiwa na mdomo aweke peg. It's a painful disease. It's a very painful disease, and when you can do nothing, that I think is where is very hard. That is where it is hard. So for that, there was nothing we could do. You just watch as he's dying.
Because unaona sometimes tunakuwa na patients wenye wanapitia mangumu mpaka una feel hata yeye mwenyewe, yani Mungu tu afanye tu vile atafanya. Juu ninyi wenyewe muna feel ni kama imefika mwisho, mmejaribu everything. But hakuna yenye inawa.
You can imagine 17 years in that state.
It's a lot.
Na unaenda tuki. I remember one day, just before he really became bad, nilienda kumuona. So nilipenda kumuona, akaniambia, tafadhali nisaidie, ng'ombe za baba yangu zimekataa kurudi kwa boma. Nisaidie tafadhali, nitachapa. And my dad behaved like he was 5-6 years. And then he went to a corner, akajikunja hivi, na he is literally scared. Even I can't remember how God would give me ideas on how to handle. So me, what I told him, ziko pande gani? So he chose me. So I go, so I called the ngombes pamoja, alafu nikafanya, ni kama nimezifungia. Nikamwambia nimezichukua zote, ziko ndani. Uko sawa. Lazima inahitaji ujanja na ufikiria. Si kumwambia hakuna ng'ombe, unasema ng'ombe gani? Unajua sasa yeye anajua ataenda kuchapwa.
Na inaweza kuwa hata mtu anaweza sahau kitu, labda iko hapo unamwambia chukua ndio hii. Na sio kuiona. Alafu
unajua pia their eyesight is affected. They can't even see when you're coming. So even when you're coming, unaambiwa kuja ukiwave ndio at least one movement. Sababu kuja umtap kutoka nyuma na hajui unakuja, anaweza hata kukuchapa. You know those kind of things. So eyesight is affected. Huwezi tembea. You cannot swallow.
And now, do you have other cases as in you may handle beside from your experience na your dad?
A lot. Another shasha I went to visit somewhere in Embu, and I couldn't remember. Because being my mom is Kikuyu and my dad is Kamba, so I thought, nikimix hizi lugha mbili naweza ongea Kiembu hivi kidogo. So I started trying to talk to the shosho and trying to give her stories, and she's just looking at me. So I'm like, what is wrong with this child? So finally she went to the kitchen and said, "Ebu pateni wa msichana chakula sababu ameshinda kismile sana. Mpateni chakula anyamaze." Because I think I talked to her so much and she was so tired of me. So when I was being given food, she went outside. I'm telling you, Shosho went and picked maembe anilete. But you know the sad part of it? Hizo maembe zote alicollect zilikuwa zimeoza.
Okay.
Akaziweka zote kwa paper bag. Akaniletea. Na mimi nikawauliza, na mtu anasema nene asante na Kiembu, nikaambiwa, nikamhug, nikamwambia asante sana, nitapelekea watoto wangu. Of course nimeembe they are rotten, but yani in my heart I was like, yani the love to just come and give me, pengine hakuwa anajua hata zimeoza, lakini yeye ameniletea zawadi. So I picked it. Of course I put them in the car. Of course tears are there as you're doing that. So every family you meet,
inakuwa tuna challenges zake.
it's hard and it's okay. I mean, I love what I do.
Yeah,
I love what I do.
I love how passionate you are.
I love what I do, but it's really sad to see somebody deteriorate to that level. Yeah. I pray every day that we shall get a cure for this disease, because it's painful to see someone when you hear their stories, how they did stuff, how they, you know, they were so involved in their community, in their church, in their, hata msikitini, ama popote walikuwa, hata muindi, they were so vibrant. Then all of a sudden, they've become almost a shell of themselves. For me, that is hard. That is very hard. So every day, and that is why when I meet like the Ministry of Health, I'm glad at least they listen to us, and we are trying to work on our dementia plan in Kenya. But I pray that it will be taken seriously, because a lot of us, we think cancer is there. And I don't say cancer is not bad enough. It is a very hard disease. I had a sister who had cancer, so I know. But let me tell you, this is somebody who was so important in the community. And then all of a sudden, and we've had very prominent people in this country who've had the disease, but we can't speak out because of the stigma. We can't speak out. And then others also are taken advantage of, either by their children. So wakianza kuona, ama their relatives, wakianza kuona wanaanza kudeteriorate, wanapeleka kwa bank, wana sign papers, ndio wao wakwenda wale wanachukuanga pesa on their behalf, lakini hawata waangalia, wanaenda wanateswa. So at a bank, I was giving a talk somewhere in one of the banks, and I was telling them, when these old people come to the bank, msiwaibie.
Yeah.
Because hawajui value. Pengine ameandika 100,000. Pengine amekuwa akiandika 100,000 tangu akue 20. Sasa ataandika 100,000, lakini hajui 100,000, 10,000, 1,000, hajui difference.
Kuna watu wana take advantage.
So people take advantage, wanaanza kutoa pesa.
Amekwambia maybe 20, unaenda unatoa 80.
Alafu unamuibia. So some of these things, there's a lot of awareness just that is required. Let's take care of the people who are around us. Let's give them the dignity they require. Imagine they struggle to be who they are. Let's really not make them feel, for lack of a better word, useless, or not revered, not people, we don't respect them anymore. So me, that is my message every day, because it's sad. Like for me, I really fought with my dad. And if I had known a lot of things that I know now, I would have taken things very different. And I remember walking into hospital. He was in ICU. I walked into hospital and I had to make peace with him, because I was telling myself, unajua naweza enda na mimi nina hasira zangu sababu one hanikumbuki. Kwa nini mimi of all his children ndio akumbuki? I had a lot of anger towards my dad. Mimi ndio alichapa, ananivunja mikono. Mimi nilikuwa najaribu kumsaidia. Mimi ndio anatukana the most. My dad would call me names. Yeah? And so I had to go and make peace with him. And I remember walking into hospital, and I went and I held his hand and I told him, Dad, I've come to say sorry. I know I've been very angry with you, and I'm requesting, please forgive me. I didn't know better, and I didn't understand whether ni mgonjwa, but now I understand a little bit. Nisamehe. And then my dad, because he was not talking, he just squeezed my hand. And for me, that gave me peace. The peace that I required. At least this is settled. Yeah. And so even when he was dying, I was at peace, because we had had that conversation. So sometimes also, if your loved one has been maybe very mean to you, and you've decided to stay away, because some people can't take it. Utastahimili yo kushinda ukitukanwa, unaambiwa vitu. Some people stay away.
Hata mtu anakufukuza, anaweza tu kuambia toka kwa hii nyumba.
But mara nyingi huwa wanafukuzwa. Si mara moja ama mbili. Utafukuzwa. Sababu hakukumbuki, anaona wewe umekuja kummaliza. Ama unampikia, anakwambia unataka kuniua? Umepanga kuniua. So unaambiwa vitu ambazo ni very painful. So if your loved one has been mean to you, this is my message to you. Don't stay away from them. Just slowly. Akikufukuza leo, wewe tu rudi kesho.
And then Eliza, Kuna vile unafaa kucommunicate na mtu ako na dementia. Is there a technique ama criteria? Juu unaweza pata mtu amekuongelesha vibaya, unataka in a nice way umwambie maybe Kenya amefanya ni wrong, but utaki kumwambia tena ni wrong juu hiyo she thinks anafanya the right thing. Kuna communication unafaa, kuna vile ka technique unafaa you apply.
What we usually teach families is ukiona amekasirika sana, anakushautia, ana scream, anafanya nini, usijibu saa hizo. Walk away. Toka tu enda nje. Na nitakwambia answer na nikikupatia story. So there was this young man, alikuwa anaongea na babake. Babake akakuwa rowdy, anamshautia, ana scream. So the young man akatoka, akakuja walikuwa wanaongea na babake. So while they were talking, the father is shouting, screaming, telling him all the things, and he's stamping his leg. So the young man akadecide, hatuelewani. So he walked out. Then he came back. Akismile, hi dad, how are you? Habari ya masiku. Then the father starts telling him, hapa tu sahi tu kuna kijana mwingine alikuwa hapa ananisumbua sana. Na ni yeye, lakini hakumbuki ni yeye. Alafu alikuwa ananisumbua ananiambia kijana kambia pole. Sasa unataka nikusaidie aje? So akasema kile alikuwa anataka afanyiwe. So hivyo tu ndio, you have to be clever. Sababu yeye hayuko in the world that you're in. Wewe ndio utaingia kwa hiyo dunia yake. Ujaribu kumsaidia vilivyo. Saa zingine zile vitu anakuambia hazi make sense. Lakini wewe ndio uko normal. Fikiria njia ambayo hata wengine kuoga ni kazi. So wengine unamwekea muziki, una dance ukimpeleka kwa bafu. Ndio akubali kwenda kwa bafu. So you have to really be thinking 100 steps mbele yake. Sababu saa zingine unaweza fikiria kwa 100 steps yako 90. So ako karibu sana na wewe. So hata ukijaribu hizo anakupita tu bado. So you have to really be innovative. Don't shout at them. Remember they wouldn't want to be in that situation they are in. So be the clever one, be the wise one. If you can't handle, go away for a few minutes. Come back when you have calmed down. Then come and continue the conversation with them.
So Elizabeth, kuna mtu akifika tuseme at age of 30 and then they start forgetting things, they feel like they have already dementia. Is it true?
No, because a lot of times, and I think even you maybe you have been in that situation. Umeshaisimama unaenda jikoni, especially nasijui kwa nini ni jikoni. Unasimama na unajiuliza nilikuja kuchukua nini? Na ukumbuki ama unatafuta funguo za gari umezishikilia
ama
na kama umevaa miwani ama simu. I think kusahau is normal. Lakini sasa mahali shida iko ni kama you cannot retrace your steps. That is where the problem is. Now what do I mean by if you cannot retrace your steps? For example, mmeni interview leo. Alafu kesho tukutana na wewe alafu niambia sasa Elizabeth nilikuja nikakuinterview. Nikuuliza mimi hata sijai kuona, sikujui. Mimi na wewe tukazungumza ati hapo sasa ndio kuna shida. Sasa ni mahali you cannot be able to recall hata vitu umefanya a few minutes ago. Now that is scary. Kusahau nimesema ni kawaida. Hata kama ulikuwa umeenda kuchukua kitu jikoni, alafu pengine umetoka sitting room, alafu urudi sitting room ukae, utasema nilikuwa naenda kuchukua maji. Umerecall.
Unatoka nini nimeuliza juu especially kwa marriage. Mtu amesahau belt, unaiona pale na anasema yoni. Unakuja unamwambia si ndio hii, anasema na socks si ndio hizi, mpaka unaanza kusema huyu anafaa kunywa Scott emulsion. Akili irudi. Lakini unajua pia maisha nimesema hapo mbeleni, stress ni contributor. Na stress ni contributor by the way a lot of times. By the way when we are forgetting, imagine sit back and think there's something not happening right in your life. There's a stressor that is giving you a problem. Now until that stressor is dealt with, it will take a bit of time. For example, hata mama, usually when mothers get children, you've heard them saying, ati kuna part ya brain for some time huwa hawakumbukangi vitu. Me, I remember when I got my son, I used to be very worried. And of course, it was immediately after my dad had not died by then. I used to have sticky notes everywhere. Sababu ninasahau. Na nilikuwa nasahau. Lakini also that is also a process usually after you get children. So si kila kusahau inamaanisha ni dementia. Lakini ukiona sasa unaanza kusahau, umekuwa na conversation na watu, wakikuambia unasema, tuliongea juu ya hiyo.
the best thing to do, and I always tell people, we always have our yearly checkups. But do we have a yearly checkup for our mind? No, we don't. It's something we need to start thinking about. Enda ukaone neurologist.
Hizo visa viko mashinani.
Ziko nyingi sana. Yes, huwa wanafungiwa. Sasa because huwa wanaenda wanapotea na watu wao hawezi kuwapata, wanafungiwa na chains. Ila kwa mti unaachwa. Sasa sababu family member lazima ende akatafute kazi, anakufungia. So ukiachwa hapo kwa jua utakaa hapo mpaka saa zile atakuja. Kukinyesha, kifanya nini? We've had cases. But also now ile shida ile kuanga kwanza challenging sana for us ni kwa sababu hii kazi tunafanya from our own pockets. So even if you want and go and to help everybody, it becomes a challenge because you can't help everyone. So we try and empower the CHPs and try and tell them, ukiona hivi ndio mtafanya, tafuteni daktari mfanye hivi. But also there are some families that will not allow you to be close to their loved one. Sababu wanaona alafu na wengine
yani kitu hafai
itakana kujulikana ni siri, itaizi toka kwa hii compound. So it's still a challenge. We still have a lot of awareness to do, and that is why I pray every day. At least tuko na mali wanaweza pelekwa, at least mtu afanye proper test. Na hizo test sababu kuna pia neurologist kama Nairobi for example, I think consultation ni 4,000. Si family nyingi inaweza afford 4,000. Alafu sasa ni 4,000. Alafu after that lazima uende tests. So blood work, scans, hizo vitu zote. By the time umalize, it's close to between 80 and 100,000. Watu wengi hawezi ka afford.
Kwa nini mtu aende kufanya test ama atafute matibabu yet hakuna cure? Na kuna watu watasema hiyo ni ugonjwa wa dosi, hakuna haja niende hata for any test.
Hiyo ni swali nzuri sana. Sababu sana dementia saa zingine inaweza jimask. Na nikisema inaweza jimask, kama mtu ako na shida ya vitamin B12 ama ako na shida ya thyroid ama ako na shida ya depression, mtu anaweza kuwa na symptoms za dementia. Na akienda hospitalini aangaliwe na hiyo ikuwe sorted, atarudi normal. So tunasema itakuwa for lack of a better word, it will be reversed. Kwa hivyo itakuwa kama reversible dementia. Lakini kuna irreversible dementia ambayo sasa ile ndio umeuliza, hakuna cure, hakuna kitu tunaweza fanya. Kwa nini niende nikaangaliwe? Lakini tunaona kama hungeenda kwa hiyo hospitali, kama pengine ulikuwa na hiyo thyroid problem na ikakuwa sorted out, kama ungeenda hospitali si bado ungekuwa na dementia like symptoms. So for me, I advocate if you're able to enda hospitali because it is important. Na afadhali ita rule out ndio ujue exactly unadeal na nini. Sababu saa zingine unaweza jiambia pengine ningeenda mapema inge change. Sababu kuna watu wengi sababu ya depression ana behave ni kama kuna dementia. Lakini angepatiwa dawa za depression, angeanza kuwa sawa. Mtu akipatiwa dawa ya kujina hiyo thyroid problem ama pengine aende hiyo upasuaji, atakuwa sawa. So some of these things, it's very important. For me, I would suggest go and see a doctor. Hata kama hakuna cure, sometimes you might be given some medications ambazo zitasaidia ku slow down the process kabla hukwe na hiyo dip. Yes, it's a very hard topic. It's a very hard conversation. Sababu it involves money. And money, like I said, taking care of even a dementia patient is very expensive. So it is, we pray with all these changes that they are planning to do in health sector. It is one of the things that will be considered because it's very expensive.
Yes, Elizabeth, for someone who wants to seek help from you, how can she get you?
So we are on, we have a website, www.alzkenya.org. So there we have our phone numbers, we have a Facebook page. So everything is there, our Instagram page and our LinkedIn. So you can reach out, you can write an email to us also at info@alzkenya.org. Then whatever your question is, we will try and support you. We'll try and connect you to the services that you're looking for so that you're able to either take care of yourself or for your loved one who has that condition.
Na kuna wengine wamejitokeza kusaidia pia katika hii jamii yako?
Watu wengi sana huwa wamejitokeza. We have a lot of volunteers who have come in to support. They have either been affected or are still taking care of their loved ones. And then usually even when we have our support group, every third Saturday of the month, a lot of them come in to support the others who have started their journey. So it's been an amazing journey. Difficult, yes. Sometimes you feel like you want to pack your bags and go. And then you remember in calling.
What else do you do when you're not working?
Oh, myself? What I love doing?
Yes. At least kubalance
maisha.
Hizo challenges unapitia kuwa na patience pia. You have to at least baby girl ajitreat pia. Asahau hizi kwanza, si ndio?
So I'm still a student. I am taking still my dementia. So reading for me, I love reading once in a while. When I'm not too tired mentally. I write a lot. I write about what I'm going through. I have a diary where I write down my feelings and everything. Being a therapist, I know it's important to go for therapy. So I also go for sessions where I take care of me. I said I love singing. And then I sit down with my friends. I take a trip away from all that. Yes. Take a road trip. Go and sit somewhere for 2-3 days. Rejuvenate myself. And then I'm able to come back and continue serving the people.
And then tukimalizia, beside from the challenges zenye umekuwa ukipitia, kuna pali during a line of duty of your work, kuna zile stories zenye maybe umekuja umedeal na client mpaka ukafika hii stage labda akarudi sawa, iko na other achievements zenye una feel it's through your effort hii kitu niliachieve pia?
Actually, and that's why I keep insisting on diagnosis, because there are many people who reach out, and when they are the family is talking to you, it sounds like dementia. Then you come and realize wako na ugonjwa ingine na ikitreatiwa they go back to normal. So for me, that is why I really push for diagnosis, because I see how their life has improved since they got the right diagnosis and they are able now to go back with their life. So for me, that is amazing. Another thing I'm so excited about is that we have caregivers who really care for each other. They support each other. They hold each other's hand. For me, that is amazing, because when my dad was sick, I did not have anyone to hold my hand. But when I see I don't have to be the one to hold these people's hand, it's the people I empowered who are empowering others, and is having a trickle effect. That for me is amazing. And it's not only in Nairobi. We have a group in Mombasa. Like last week I was in Taita to go and create awareness because one of our ladies had lost her mom. So for me, that is amazing. Kakamega, we have a group. Nyeri, we have a group. So just seeing the trickle down effect, that for me is amazing, because you realize it's not about me, it's about empowering somebody else who shall empower another one, and it keeps having that triple effect.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having me too.
You're really doing an amazing job, and keep pushing it. And I think this conversation, we should now make it a routine in our homes, churches, everywhere.
Exactly.
So that we can stop the stigma. Sindio?
Kabisa. That is, thank you very much. That is very important. My last word, what you have said, we need to keep talking. We need to have this conversation. Let's not hide our loved ones. These are people, like we said earlier, who made a difference in this country, who made a difference in our own lives. If they were our parents or our siblings, let's not hide them.
Yeah.
Let's come out, enjoy them when they are there. With the difficult moments, that too shall pass. Enjoy every moment you have with them, because siku moja unfortunately watanyamaza, hawataweza kuzungumza na wewe. Hata kama wazungumuzi wanasikia, so tafadhali usiwanene wakisikia, usiwatusi, usiwatreat vibaya. Let's ensure that we give them they are dignified human beings every day. So let's keep talking about it. Let's empower each other. Ukisikia mwingine anasafa peke yake, mwambie kuja tuzungumzie, tumshikilie mkono.